Good evening everyone. Welcome to Current Affairs for Beginners. Let's start our today's session. First, let us see answers for the questions from our previous day. The first question is, which among the following publishes Global Economic Prospects Report? The answer here is World Bank. It is B. The next question is, which among the following countries are not the members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization? India, China, USA, Kazakhstan and Bangladesh. Yesterday we have seen about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which has 8 member states in it. China, India, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. So here we don't have USA and Bangladesh as member states of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So the answer here is B, 3 and 5 only. Now let's start our today's session. These are all the topics that we are going to cover in our today's video. The first article is Center aims for 20% cut in air pollution by 2024. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of environment, and here the subtopic is air pollution. From this article, what is important from the prelims point of view is we should know about what are the features of this National Clean Air Program. The Union Minister, that is the Environment Minister, has launched this National Clean Air Program to tackle the challenge of increasing air pollution in the cities and towns. Some of the important features of this program are, it is a 5-year action plan with a tentative target of 20 to 30% reduction in the concentrations of particulate matter of 10 and particulate matter of size 2.5 by 2024, and they took 2017 as the base year. That means by 2024 the levels of these two pollutants will be compared with those levels in 2017. And the important thing is, it is not a pan-India program. It is not going to cover entire India. It will cover only 1 or 2 non-attainment cities across 23 states and union territories, which were identified by the Central Pollution Control Board based on the ambient air quality data between 2011 and 2015. Here I have said that it is covering only 1 or 2 non-attainment cities. What are these non-attainment cities? Cities that are considered as non-attainment cities if they consistently show poorer air quality than the national ambient air quality standards. So the cities that were maintaining poor air quality standards, which were below these national air quality standards, those cities were considered as non-attainment cities. Now this plan is going to focus on 1 or 2 of such non-attainment cities, and some of the cities that included under the list of non-attainment cities were Delhi, Varanasi, Bhopal, Kolkata, Noida, Muzaffarpur and Mumbai. Here the center is planning to scale up the air quality monitoring network across the India under this program. The Apex Committee and the Ministry of Environment will periodically review the progress of these components based on some appropriate indicators. Each city will be asked to develop its own action plan for implementing based on the sources of pollution in the particular city. Here you can ask whether this plan is binding on the states. No, it is not binding on the states because this document is not a legal document. It is not a legal plan. The next article is RBI notifies deferment of capital buffer norms as per the board's call. This particular article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy. And here the subtopic is banking. From this article, now we are going to see what is this capital conservation buffer. This capital conservation buffer is a new concept that is introduced under the International Basel III norms. What the concept of this capital conservation buffer says is that during the good times, that means when the bank is doing financially well, the banks must build up a capital buffer so that this amount can be withdrawn when there is a stress. That means when the bank is having bad financial health, in their bad times or in the stress times, bank can use this capital buffer. So it is the mandatory capital that financial institutions are required to hold above their minimum regulatory requirement. We know that in India, the capital requirement, minimum capital requirement is 9%. Then according to this capital conservation buffer norms, banks were required to hold a buffer of 2.5% of their risk-weighted assets in the form of common equities, which is above their capital adequacy ratio, that is 9%. So to put it simply, these are the savings for future, as this capital can be drawn when a bank is incurring losses. Since it is a buffer or some extra capital, bank's minimum capital is not violated. It will be 9% only, and this will be extra 2.5%. The next article is stockbrokers submit wish list to center. This particular article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy. From this article, now we are going to see about three things. One is what is meant by this long-term capital gains tax, and the other one is security transaction tax, and the another thing is dividend distribution tax. First, let us see what is meant by this long-term capital gains tax. But before knowing about the tax, we should know what is meant by this capital gains. Any profit or gain that will come from the sale of a capital asset is known as capital gain. For example, let us see some of the capital assets like land, building, house property, vehicles, trademarks, some jewelry, machinery. All these were considered as capital assets. And Mr. A wants to sell his land. Then if he sells his land at 30 lakh rupees, but he had brought this land for only 10 lakh rupees when he purchased it. Now he is selling this for 30 lakh. Then his profit is 20 lakh rupees. For this profit is known as capital gains. He has to pay tax for this profit, which is known as capital gains tax. And this capital gains tax is of two types. One is short term and the other thing is long term capital gains tax. If it is short term, then this asset, he should sell his house within 2 years. That is within 24 months if he sells his house, then this house will be known as short term capital asset. And he will be paying this short term capital gains tax. If the asset is held for more than 3 years before selling, and if he sells it after 3 years, then the asset will be considered as long term capital asset. And the person A will be paying long term capital gains tax for the profit he has earned from this capital gains by selling his land. The next one we'll be seeing is securities transaction tax. This is the tax that will be levied on purchase or sale of securities. Securities in the sense shares, derivatives or any equity oriented mutual fund units that are listed in the Indian stock exchanges. For example, in a company you own some shares and that company is listed in a Indian stock exchange. Let it be Bombay Stock Exchange. Then if you want to sell your shares or if you want to purchase new shares, then you have to pay a tax on it. That tax is known as security transaction tax. For any transaction that you do, whether you sell it or purchase it, you have to pay this tax. This tax was introduced in India in order to curb tax avoidance on capital gains. Because, for example, you own a share. When you purchased it, you got it for 1 lakh rupees. Now you want to sell it off and you are selling it for 2 lakh rupees. Then here the capital gain is 1 lakh rupees. But what happened here is people, they were not declaring their profits by selling their stocks and they were avoiding paying capital gains tax. So government has introduced this security transaction tax for every transaction, whether it is a purchase or selling of the property. And this tax will be shared both by the seller and the buyer. The next tax is dividend distribution tax. What is this dividend distribution tax? Dividend means it is the return that is given by a company. For example, there is a company called A and it has sold its shares to people. People had invested in that company. Now they are also owners of this shares in the company. Then the company, after doing the business, it has earned some profits. Out of the profits that were earned by the company in a particular year, the company will give some amount to its shareholders, which is known as dividend. This dividend constitutes of income in the hands of shareholders, which will be subjected to income tax because this is an income to the shareholders for their investment. But the income tax laws in India has provided an exemption of this dividend income that is received by the shareholders or the investors. But it levies a tax known as dividend distribution tax on the company which is paying this dividend. So that A will be paying the tax which is distributing the dividend out of its profit, and it has to be paid within 14 days of declaration, that is distribution or payment of dividend, whichever is earlier. In case of non-payment, then the company has to pay it along with interest rate. And the next thing what you are going to see is, what is this Bandhan Bank? This comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy. This Bandhan Bank is the first microfinance company in India which got transformed into a universal bank. That means it is now operating as a full-fledged scheduled commercial bank. Initially it is a microfinance company, but now it is operating as a scheduled commercial bank. It was set up in 2001 to address the dual objective of poverty alleviation and women empowerment. Now it primarily focuses on the unorganized sector in India like daily wage earners and women who are running small businesses. As a bank, it will also offer services like savings, remittance and insurance services for the deposits that were made. Whereas a non-banking financial company cannot insure its deposits. But like a normal bank, this Bandhan Bank also insures its deposits. The next article is Market Risk Economic Growth to Drive Gold Demand in 2019 by World Gold Council. This also comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy. From this article, now we are going to see about this World Gold Council. It is a market development organization for the gold industry. It works across all parts of the industry from gold mining till investment, and its aim is to stimulate and sustain the demand for gold. This council, the name itself says it is an association of members comprising the world's leading gold mining companies. This helps to support its members to mine in a responsible way and develop the conflict-free gold standards. Now let's see our today's prelims questions. The first question is regarding National Clean Air Program and the other one is related to this dividend distribution tax. Try to answer these questions and post your answers in the comment box. In our tomorrow's video, we'll see a detailed explanation for these questions. And these are our today's mains questions for which you can write your answers in our www.CivilsPrep.com website. And this is our Loix Loans website where you can access the notes for this video, and this is our official Telegram channel for which the link is available in the description below. Here you can access all the other material. Along with this video, you can access other videos and their notes and other material from Law Excellence. Thank you.